We got investment from Jason Calacanis. He's an early investor in Uber, Robinhood, Com, and yeah, so we raise money from them, like other VCs too. So yeah, they bet the future of work lifestyle. It's not nomadic lifestyle.
Nice. And Jason has an amazing podcast if anybody wants to check it out. I love his podcast. So
I like
congrats
it.
on that. That's an easy conversion to say you're hostel and then, oh,
Right.
actually, we're co-living community.
That's a great point because hosteling is really the it's the nucleus of all of this movement. If you think about it, it started in hosteling sort of saying, well, everybody can say. We started removing the word youth hostel and we focus on hosteling because I would see my mom is 65, she goes to youth hostels more than I do. I've become the snob, and so youth hosteling has changed into hosteling, and then there's hotel brands that kind of branch on the millennial love of backpacking, and I think of Citizen M, where the public spaces are celebrated in a way as they would be in a hostel.
Christine here with another fun episode of the Co-Living Coach Show every single Wednesday. It's on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, and also the CEO of Kindred, which is a platform for the co-living industry. And as usual, I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsors that help support this show, starting with Anyplace. With the ever-growing demand for flexible living, it is more valuable than ever to find move-in ready housing that fits your needs without the burden of a long lease. Service departments and alternative options like co-living make it super easy and painless to move, relocate, or simply explore a city. And we're honored to share with you the best platform to discover unique and affordable places to live in locations around the world. For an operator, definitely reach out to them if you want to get listed on their platform. And also thank you to ISL Furnishings, a brand created through Interspace Living, which exists in the exciting space where design meets function. Interspace parlayed its success in commercial grade unit furniture and conceived an elevated offering. They believe strongly in the co-living industry, and they already work with some of the larger companies like Quarters and Star City. They were founded with the mission to bring your brand to life. Their goal is to revolutionize the unit furniture experience. And driven by creativity, ISL Furnishings believes that interiors should inspire brilliance. Every venue has its own voice. They exist to clarify that voice, interpret your brand vision, and deliver superior quality on time every time. So as the summertime is coming to a close, which I know we had some incredible guests this summer, I want to thank each and every one of them. Even Daniel last week was incredible. We've gotten some great feedback from that episode. Definitely check it out if you missed it. And this week we are bringing on our first ever partner who joined us a few months ago. It's Anyplace. They're helping sponsor the show. As you guys know, we stepped up the audio quality for the podcast. All sorts of fun stuff. So we are very grateful for their support, and it's an incredible platform. Definitely check out anyplace.com. But I did want to bring on their CEO and also one of their team members to explain more about their journey, how they got started. They're based out of San Francisco. So really cool to talk about all of that. Also they gave some amazing stats on COVID. They have a bird's eye view on what's going on in the shared living space around the world and how COVID shifted that dramatically, very quickly. And so they're growing fast, obviously, because now there's more vacancies. Jump into this episode. First, I'll read both of their bios. So we actually brought on both of them separately because Steve is in San Francisco and Nathaniel is over in Montreal. And it's funny, Steve, I've been begging him to come on, but in San Francisco, all the barber shops were closed. So he was waiting for a haircut for a lot of months. I was teasing him. I told him he could just put a hat on. But so we finally got a haircut. And so we finally brought him on. So we'll start with Steve. He started Anyplace to meet his own needs as a digital nomad. The platform has grown rapidly and is currently available across 33 countries in over 100 cities. The company works with co-living spaces, hotels, and furnished apartments. After he graduated from college, Steve moved from Japan to Silicon Valley. Anyplace raised multi-million dollars from investors in Uber, Robinhood, and Instacart. So we talk a little bit about that. And Nathaniel, who I actually met first, is the head of partnerships at Anyplace, where he just celebrated 2 years with the company. He's spent 7 years at Booking.com, gaining unparalleled experience in travel tech. And during his time, he helped launch new markets across Canada and the US. And after graduating from university, Nathaniel spent a year as a professional mascot aboard a cruise liner. It was there where he discovered his passion for travel. He is fluent in 5 languages, and Nathaniel is proud to call Montreal, Canada, home. So let's go ahead and launch into this week's episode. Okay, this week we are bringing on Steve, who is the CEO, co-founder of Anyplace, who is one of our sponsors. So I definitely wanted him to come on, talk about their journey, how they got started, what they're up to. He's got some great metrics on what's going on with COVID right now, because they have just this bird's eye view of shared living, furnished apartments, like what's happening in that world. So Steve, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And I know we waited like 2 months because you said you wanted to get a haircut, and he's in San Francisco. And so I'm glad you finally made it happen. You said a friend ended up cutting your hair?
Yeah, finally, I had my haircut, and a friend of mine cut my hairs, but she doesn't have a license. So it's maybe illegal haircut, but it's okay. It's new normal, right?
It's the new normal. No, you told me that the other day. You're like, I got a haircut, but it's an illegal haircut. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, I think a lot of people are having either an illegal haircut or they're just buzzing all their hair off. So good deal. Okay, cool. Well, let's start. Steve, let's start with like when you started Anyplace, like why you decided to start it.
Cool. Let me start with my background. So after I graduated from my college, I moved to San Francisco from Japan. At that time, I didn't have any money, no connections here. I didn't speak English. I had nothing, but I had passion for creating global products such as Next, Airbnb, or Uber. In Japan, usually startup founders are very conservative. They copy US products and localize them into Japanese market. I hate that. I don't want to spend my time on creating copycat for 5 years or 10 years, right? So that's why I moved to San Francisco. Here is a right place to building global product. But in reality, we struggle for the first 2 years. It was hard to create a product from scratch. You must know how it's hard, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's entrepreneur's life. Anyway, we pivot a lot for the first 2 years, and finally we found this opportunity, Anyplace, for 3 years ago. At that time, my co-founder and I were frustrated about the housing rental situation. We had to commit to a long-term contract, such as 12 months, and we had to set up utilities, Wi-Fi, and get furniture. That was very, very stressful. Then we came up with a crazy idea. What about living in a hotel? It's pretty flexible, right? We can move in and out whenever we want. Then we called several hotels, many hotels in San Francisco. And of course, most of them say no, but some of them say yes and gave us a discount if we stay longer. Then we started living in a hotel. We really liked it. It's pretty flexible. It's a turnkey experience. And then we were like, hey, we should create a marketplace that provides this kind of flexible housing rental experience. Then Anyplace was born. But in the early days, we worked with only hotels. But meanwhile, co-living is becoming a movement. At that time, WeWork started WeLive, their own, co-living spaces, and also some co-living startups such as Common emerging. Then naturally, we have been forming a partnership with co-living spaces, and now co-living spaces leading our platform. We are currently available across 28 countries in 100 cities. So yeah, how we started and how we ended up one of the biggest flexible housing rental marketplaces.
So that's amazing. And how many beds total? Again, I forget the number globally. Do you guys have on the platform?
Beds, units,
Yeah,
That's a
units.
lot. I don't remember. That's a lot. It's gonna be more than 10,000. Yeah, and then we are adding new properties every week, every day. So
I know, 10,000. I think the last time, I think it was like 8,000. Last time I talked to Nathaniel. No, that's
okay.
awesome. Yeah. And that's like what percentage of those 10,000 units are co-living, you think?
That's a good question. So I need to double check the number, but I think I would say 40%. Yeah, around
Wow. Okay.
40%. We work with individual co-living operators and also big co-living operators such as Hamlet and Life Co-living. It's one of the biggest co-living operators in Singapore. So
Nice. What markets do you see really picking up speed on in this market?
good question. It depends on pre-COVID and COVID, right? So pre-COVID, yeah, Europe and then Southeast Asia are picking up like uh, co-living spaces because we targeted digital nomads. But during COVID, more domestic needs, we saw many domestic needs during COVID because many people hesitate across the country, but they work from different locations in United States. So we call them domestic nomads. So that's an interesting trend.
Oh, I like that term. I haven't heard the domestic nomad yet. Oh, that's amazing. And then somebody came on the show a few weeks ago and he called it before COVID, which is like BC. So we were saying, and it's like during COVID, DC, AC, hopefully after COVID comes sooner than later. And then somebody else used the term COVID era, which I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want it to be as long, so long we're calling it an actual era. So that's interesting statistics. Okay, so more domestic travel, people are jumping. And then, so do you see those longer stay operators kind of converting to like allow more short-term stays just to kind of keep occupancy up?
Yeah, we see both trends. Like longer term operators, became more, flexible term furnished rentals, like co-living, and also short term operators such as hotels, vacation rental management companies started, extend stays. So
Mm.
we see both trends. That's interesting time.
And I like that you guys experienced it first and the hotel stay and living. I did that
Yeah.
too over in Amsterdam because I didn't have a place like in the very beginning and at the very end. So I was like living out of hotels, which again has its pros, right? You get cleaning every day, and but definitely, yeah, it's only a short term solution sometimes, usually. And then what? So let's see here. In some of the other, what are some countries right now? I mean, I know you guys are in so many different countries. Some countries that are adding a lot of units right now to your platform.
Good question. Actually, everywhere. Latin America, Europe, Asia, we are adding new properties, and of course, United States. But demand-wise, we would like to focus on more domestic, like US market. But we are adding, because they have empty rooms, right, everywhere, and then they would like to fill out their empty rooms in a different way for short-term operators and long-term operators. So
No, you're right. And just recently in the last few weeks, I've been talking to different operators where they're literally putting listings on every single platform they can even come up with. Some of them are listed on 10 different platforms. Just because exactly, you're right. They now need more guests and residents. So they're willing to take them from anywhere versus before, they'd have to pay a percentage. And if they were already occupied, with waiting lists that didn't, they weren't really going on to the platforms as much. When did you guys see like massive, because I'm guessing now you guys are growing even faster because of COVID and because the people need residents. Which month did you guys see kind of a turn?
for the supply side, I would say May. Yeah, we started receiving many inbound inquiries from operators, and then interesting trend is on the demand side. We saw the demand starting to recover last month, July. So now people are looking for flexible housing options, right? So and then due to COVID, many people are allowed to work remotely. For example, in the Bay Area, San Francisco, many tech companies such as Twitter, Square, Coinbase, and many tech startups allow their employees to work remotely. And Google has extended its remote policy until next summer. As a result, many people started moving out of urban cities such as San Francisco. So now they are naturally, becoming a digital nomads, and they're looking for flexible housing options. So that's a huge trend. And then I think there's a huge opportunity for co-living operators, to provide, their accommodations to that kind of, digital nomads.
And domestically, again, you're right. A lot of people fled San Francisco. Were they like, have you seen the inquiries in Denver picking up, Austin? Like, where were they? Where did they go to be honest? Seattle? I don't know.
Good question. So as you mentioned, Denver was our top destination. So people are looking for Denver, Orange County, Philadelphia, Hawaii. So that kind of destinations.
Oh, Hawaii. Yeah, they got a quarantine, I think, for a couple weeks. I just had a friend go over there before they could stay.
Yeah, but people started searching. So probably, they're eager to visit there.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I don't blame them. That's amazing. And then what are some opportunities you feel like during COVID, post-COVID for both, I mean, mainly the operator side on the platform?
So, good question. So we attract, so our target is digital nomad, right? And then during COVID, we would like to focus on more, domestic nomads. So we will spend our resource onto that market. So we attract more, domestic nomad kind of people to our platform, and we'd like to introduce that kind of people to co-living operators. So that's marketing wise and marketing message wise, we can definitely help with those kind of operators. And recently, everyone says the future of work is remote, right? But how about the future of the work lifestyle? We believe it's nomadic. Forget about work from home. Now we can work from anywhere, right? We aim to become the best flexible housing marketplace options, for that kind of people.
And I know I keep I should have sent you get some stats before. So I know I keep putting you on the spot on numbers, and I don't know if you have this one either, but off the top of your head, but maybe a range. Like, how often do you see people jumping? Like, how often are they staying at each location? How many months?
So people usually stay 1 to 2 months or something.
Oh.
And but some of them are extending their stay. So it depends on their situation. But on the average, our customers book a place for 90 days at the initial booking. Yeah, but some of them are extend their stay, and then eventually our customers' average length of stay is around 7 months. So that's
And then right there in your neighborhood, in your backyard, is Airbnb. Have you guys been taking any inventory that you believe prior was like short stay Airbnb vacation rentals?
Good question. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
I keep telling people, I'm like, these Airbnb, I mean, there's a lot in San Diego, and I'm like, I guarantee they'd rather have co-living in their house right now.
Right. So some Airbnb property management companies, had a partnership with us, and we were focusing on professionally managed properties. Like, we are B2C marketplace. So the difference between Airbnb and Anyplace is, the nature of business. Airbnb is C2C marketplace, right? And then we are B2C marketplace. So that's a huge difference. And then recently we had some partnership with vacation rental management companies.
Got it. And then do you guys charge like a percentage, or how do you guys do the billing typically?
Good question. It depends. Yeah, it depends. But usually we charge 10% commission. Yeah.
Perfect. And then the most important part, which we didn't talk about yet, and I told you this when we first had chatted a while back, Yes, somebody told me about you guys like a year and a half ago, and I'd never seen the platform, and I looked it up. And he goes, he's an operator in New York, and he's like, what I like best is that they pre-qual. So you guys are doing the pre-qualification portion, and then you're handing a qualified lead to the operator for move-in, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, at that
And then
time.
how'd you guys come up with that idea?
So we'd like to create easiest booking, booking process. Then we do background check. We check customers' credit score, criminal score, and the eviction reports. So, and then we'd like to, and then through this process, we can only introduce qualified guests to to our partners, right? So that's what we'd like to build.
And does the operator take do you guys get involved with the security deposits at all or no?
It depends on partner. We are flexible, so we usually handle security deposit, but some partners, would like to handle by themselves. So we are flexible.
Oh, nice. No, and that's just such a great idea. However, I know we're talking about the States mainly, because in other countries, they don't do credit checks at all. I don't know if they do background checks. So
Yeah.
like, how do you pre-qual those people?
Yeah, it depends on, as you mentioned, it depends on state and country. So we are flexible, of course. And upon request from our partners, we change, booking process. So if partners don't require background check, so we only collect, ID verification or something like that. ID verification, email verification, phone number verification. So yeah, we are pretty flexible, and then we are also still learning. We are optimizing, for the best booking process.
I know I tell everybody the co-living world's a lot more trusting because a lot of these operators are like, no, we don't need to do background check. No, we're not doing credit. And they haven't had any horror stories yet. So I haven't heard of really any. I think it's just such a different demographic and community that, works together. They're not stealing from each other. I think that's the type of person it actually draws to co-living. So that's always good to hear. But yeah, you're right. It's usually probably operator specific on what they're looking for the residents they're bringing in. And then I know you've got some I don't know if you could say, but I know you guys have some big investors there in San Francisco, some names that people might know.
Yeah. So we got investment from Jason Calacanis. He's an early investors in Uber, Robinhood, Calm. And yeah, so we raise money from them, like other VCs too. So yeah, they bet, the future of work lifestyle. It's not, nomadic lifestyle.
Nice. And Jason has an amazing podcast if anybody wants to check it out. I love his podcast. So congrats on that. Yeah, for sure. And then my last question, Steve, is what's the future growth plans for Anyplace?
So yeah, good question. So we aim to become the best flexible housing rental marketplace options for digital nomads. So this means we need to add more properties, all over the world. Like we are adding every week, every day, but we need more. So we need to cover, more countries, more cities, and then also we don't want to become a boring housing rental marketplace. We don't sell only housing rental. We sell our lifestyle. Freedom, right? So that's why we would like to more optimize for nomadic lifestyle. So we plan to launch Anyplace perks. So we provide discount on local services such as co-working space, laundry service, storage, training gym, something like that. So perks we are planning to launch, and then also we plan to launch a community, online community. So through community, Anyplace customers can make digital nomad friends, in local and also global. So this kind of new features we are working on to launch.
I love that. No, and everybody says, well, hey, isn't Anyplace very similar to Kindred's search and discovery platform and directory? And I'm like, yeah, but a rising tide lifts all boats, A. B, we're like strictly like co-living communities only. We're very strict about that. So yeah, no, I love your vision and mission, which is similar to us, like just making it accessible to rent short-term amazing housing anywhere in the world, like with a couple clicks and just move in. Like that's always been my dream for a couple years. And then, okay, with your platform, have you guys thought about doing membership eventually? Because your network's getting so big. If you have 10,000 listings around the world, is there any sort of like membership you guys are looking at doing eventually?
Good question, but we don't have any specific ideas of the membership, but probably yes, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Keeping the ideas flowing. That's awesome. I love it. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on this week. I know I had to beg you for a little while there to come on and chat about Anyplace, but I appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you guys being a sponsor of this show, obviously. So thanks again.
Thank you, Christine. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so we just wrapped up with Steve, the CEO of Anyplace, and now we are quickly bringing on Nathaniel. Welcome to the show, Nathaniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so, I know that you specifically your senior partnerships manager there at Anyplace. You've been there for 2 years. You know this inside out. I know I'm going to quit poor Steve. I was just asking him off the cuff some data and numbers, but I know you know a lot of them. And so we'll dive into that. And then also, it's been funny because we met on the weekly COVID and Co-Living forum a while back. So you popped in on a Wednesday, had some amazing advice. You kind of have this macro view of what's happening, between co-living and furnished apartments and hotels and the travel industry. So let's start with that. In your opinion, what's like the future of travel and like consumption of housing and living?
That's a really good question. I think I love you had mentioned something about the DC, the during COVID. I think we're in such a transitional period right now where I think everybody's kind of rediscovering what they want and reassessing what their needs are. So I think the jury's still out of where all of this will take us. But for sure, we're seeing people are desiring to move. People want to be in different locations. What was hot 6 months ago, it's not necessarily hot today. I think the biggest kind of indicator that I'm seeing is our market wait list, where in the past it was pretty stable. It was generally we needed more inventory in our top destinations. I would say in the past 3 months, it's exploded in a way where it's kind of like people are looking for completely different things with some clear winners too, but people are really looking to be in nature, newer cities that have more space. You were talking about Denver. I mean, Denver really is the one that lights up the most in our market wait list. And I think that says a lot of what the quality of life people are looking for right now.
Ooh, that's interesting. And then have there been some cities that are like you've seen a massive decline? I could probably name a couple of them, but what are some cities that you've seen a decline in inquiries?
So I would say New York, we saw a decline in inquiries, but it's already kind of stabilizing. The market is shifting. We're seeing a lot of, hotels that are trying to adapt to the new model. And, so we're hoping to see more inventory in Manhattan, which was always an obstacle in the past. I would say surprises is that, at some point, Boston still stays pretty strong. We were worried about Boston, but then Boston kind of just lit up. COVID is kind of like, you're in a grocery store and the lights are kind of popping on and back off. So you got to make sure that your inventory is ready to go in all locations. Because if they want peanut butter on Friday and that they want cereal on Wednesday, you got to make sure that it's there. That's what we're learning right now.
What a great analogy. I love that. That's amazing. And then, Steve had used that term, domestic nomads. So is that
Yes.
something, maybe elaborate a little bit more on that? Is that just in the States or you see that in different countries?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to the idea of the lights coming back on in different places and you got to be ready. So that one of those lights is the global mobility factor. So domestic, the United States is kind of, it's a great example of that. It's such a big country where there's so much diversity. So people are definitely migrating within the country. So people who are on the coast, we know what over 400,000 people have left New York in the past 6 months. So obviously they've went, some people have gone to different markets. So I think that's what we're seeing. LA still remains strong. Is LA a city that's adapted for the future more so than New York? Is that something that, we're seeing? But definitely in the US, people are definitely looking to stay in the country, go back to somewhere maybe that they originally came from. What we're also seeing is markets where we have a lot of potential with domestic also growing suddenly is India. So we don't have much happening in India, but suddenly India has become our third largest kind of audience. And we know that it's a domestic market in India. So there's another example. Canada is another one, smaller country, but with a lot of space. We've seen a lot of people leave Toronto, going out to Atlantic Canada, going out to Western Canada to live in smaller places closer to nature.
And then you're in Montreal. You're in Canada. I forgot to mention that.
I am.
Yeah, nice. No, and we were so I was just talking to two of your guys' clients. So Place Me, Clara with Place Me, and Jacob over at Outpost Club. And we were trying to coordinate like a road trip, once you guys will let the Americans in.
I know.
And they just had such like raving, things to say about you guys. Like just obviously your customer service and just how hands-on you guys are. You aren't just like a regular, listing platform. We know there's a lot of third-party platforms out there, and they just said you guys will help no matter what. Like it doesn't have to be just any help that they ever need. You guys are there for them, which is really, really cool. That says a lot.
Thank you. It's really important for us. It's the reason, I spent a long time where I was before. So making the leap, that was the reason I left, is because, you're part of something that's bigger than just opening a business. I know it's an online marketplace, but I say we are for housing, but it's definitely experiential. And we know that when somebody consumes something on a longer term, it's a completely different emotional relationship than 3 nights, right? When you're buying housing, it's somewhere, you're prioritizing different things. And we know that we have to be there each step of the way to learn that what's important to the clients and how their expectations might change.
Yeah. And I read in your bio already, you were 7 years at booking.com, right? So I'm sure you took your learnings from there, and then just how have you kind of shifted them once you came over to Anyplace in the last couple of years?
How have I shifted them?
Yeah, just things that lessons learned and just how
There's a few. I would say the biggest lessons, I would say content. People want to consume things the way they have with travel. So they want to be able to see everything immediately. They want to know. They want to look at the content. Airbnb and Booking have definitely played a huge role in that, in the way our expectations when we go online to go and find a place to stay. What I am seeing is that things are different. It's not the same process, where somebody, we're all guilty of it, right? When you're looking for a hotel, you're like, well, I don't like the bathroom, but but if you look at your bathroom, it's probably, my bathroom is not so great compared to the hotels that I'm always prioritizing. But if I'm staying longer, it's completely different. One of the big surprises is, how do we leverage guest reviews? You've used the word testimonials in the past, which I think is interesting. That's a big one, because we know that people need social proofing. We know it's a big part of the way we make choices today, but how do we make sure that it's accurate, that it's honest? Am I going to have the same opinion when I walk into an apartment versus when I am there 2 weeks later, 2 months later, 3 months later? When do we need to capture that information? How many times do we need to capture that information? Do we need to share that information with the client in the future? So there's a lot for us to learn. Search boxes, we do a lot of kind of these, oh God, I'm not a scientist, these like heat maps, these like my dev team shares with me. And one of the things that blows me away, obviously people look at photos, virtual tours are huge. But what surprises me, a lot of people don't use the search dates. So there's an obstacle when you're trying to create a scalable process. We're trying to make this easy and simple, and search dates are a big part of it. But if people aren't using it, we need to learn from that too.
Interesting. And let's dive in more even to the guest reviews. How do you guys verify? Do you guys actually verify that they actually lived there?
Right. So yes. So only people who have stayed with us receive a link to write a guest review. So for the moment, we're aggregating all of that. I'm not sure if we've decided to go and put them on front end. Again, we want to make sure we're using it properly. But it's only verified guests that can leave a guest review.
That is terrific. I know I see some third-party platforms like Trustpilot is a review site, but that's another one that I see people gaming. It is very inexpensive to get a bunch of fake reviews on Trustpilot for the platform itself. People that have lived, booked through it, lived there, et cetera, but they don't verify. So I think, in this day and age, consumers are getting smart. Like they could tell these reviews, testimonials aren't real. So that's exciting to hear you guys are doing. Yeah.
It's bad for business at the end of the day. If the client's not happy, that will, word of mouth, it's still an important way to grow a marketplace and confidence. And if you're going to abuse that confidence, I mean, it won't work in the long run.
Yeah, most definitely. I know I looked up one today. I won't say the name of the community, the Coliving brand here in the States, but they had 1 star and a ton of like livid reviews. It was so bad. So yeah, definitely. I think that's going to be more important, even more so in the future for sure. Another question I had for you was as far as any other, the competition on the horizon. Do you see like Airbnb, booking.com? Do you see, Expedia? Expedia kind of started doing it and then I think they stopped again, just playing in that more like mid to long term stay arena.
Yeah, that was kind of, at Booking, that was one of the reasons we left is I saw the future of extended stay and the need for it. From what I see now is they have shifted. Airbnb is offering, has a whole search parameter for monthly stays. Booking.com, I'm not sure if they've launched it yet, but I know I just saw a post from my former boss that they're launching, they're getting people to just put in, longer stay rates. So length of stay rates that are based on 30 night plus. So I'm not sure if they've changed it, but there's so much more to that. Like I was saying, that process is completely different. It's not an instant book. It's, even the definition of what an instant book, even though we want it to be fast, we're going to have to define that in a new way. And I think they're going to struggle with the way they've done business for so long to really say that they can do that. It's a lot more than just offering, extended stay rates. There's, vetting process for the partners, the clients, the responsibilities, regulations. Every city, every country has different ways of working about it, and we've got to be ready. And that's kind of our offering is we make sure that we set that, in the onboarding process with our partners, that we make sure we get the right client that's right for them. So that's where I think they're going to have trouble. So I'm not so worried about it, but it's interesting to see that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon all of a sudden.
No, I was just about to say the same thing. I'm happy that there's enough co-living, like real true co-living inventory that these different platforms and aggregators are putting on, and they'll have a tag that says furnished apartment or it says co-living, like they're segregating it out still, but it's all listed on one, or hotel. It's still on the same platform. Actually, just the other day, my team, we were on a meeting and I clicked over to coliving.com and I know Daniel. And he's listing everything now. It blew my mind because it's coliving.com. And I'm like, whoa, there's like just furnished apartments. And again, so I think there's, I would love for us to have this conversation in real time on the podcast show. Because we haven't talked about this is like, what will happen in the near future where somebody lives in a co-living community and then they have to move and then they go to the same platform and they're trying to book something and then they go and it's just really an apartment and there's no community and there's no events. So like that, do you think I don't know if it's going to blur together, if it's going to stay, I don't know. That's really interesting.
Great question. We actually have the opposite problem with our clients at first. So we had to kind of coach people to let them know what co-living means. Because we never came into this necessarily saying we're dedicated to co-living, more the lifestyle. The client is the co-liver, right? Or the domestic nomad. I was just speaking to, I don't know if you're familiar with Coco Hub. They're an organization of digital nomads, and they believe in this philosophy that, the community will define what the community is in an organic way. So I think we're trying to follow that route, and we're open to whatever it is. And our role is to be, as a marketplace, is not to judge or to define, but to make sure we create the right expectation for the clients and that our partners are happy with what they get and that, they understand what they're coming into.
Got it. Yeah. And just so the expectations are set up front. And then maybe there's more clarity after people like they'll see like actual true differences between the two. And I mean, hey, for Kindred, like every single investor was like, co-living, the niche is too small. I mean, it's still really, really small. It's maybe 1,100 to 1,500 at our count. Globally, which is not a lot of operators. Yeah. We think 1,500, like genuine, actual co-living communities. So that's not a lot at all. So, however, with Kindred, I'm like, you guys, that's the lane. We're going to stay in the lane. That's all. We're not doing, any furnished. So we have to be very careful in the vetting process because we see a lot of furnished apartments saying they're co-living, but there's no co-living going on really. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. And then because is there any other platforms off the top of your head? I'm trying to think of some others, marketplaces that are doing housing.
So there's Spot a Home in Europe. That's one that I hear quite a bit. It's popular in the European market. There's a few out there. I don't know if any are really dedicated to flexible living or midterm housing per se, but I know Spot Home is definitely one of them. Coliving.com, it's funny you mentioned because I happened to come across a few people that I think didn't know what co-living was when they started working with us, and I see they're on their website now. So I'm happy to know that we're even branching out and people are, we're getting operators who weren't even thinking about it. That happens a lot too now, as people are starting to realize that this is an option for what they're doing too.
For sure. And hostels too. Hostels is the best crossover.
Right.
I tell everybody that it's the best. They have community like down already. So that's an easy conversion to say you're a hostel and then, actually we're co-living community.
That's a great point because hosteling is really the it's the nucleus of all of this movement. If you think about it, it started in hosteling sort of saying, well, everybody can stay. We started removing the word youth hostel and we focus on hosteling because I would see, my mom is 65. She goes to youth hostels more than I do. I've become the snob. And, so, youth hosteling has changed into hosteling. And then, then there's hotel brands that kind of branch on the millennial love of backpacking and I think of Citizen M where the public spaces are celebrated in a way as they would be in a hostel, and then that evolved into co-living. So I think I think hostel is kind of where this all kind of maybe started from, that community aspect.
And then you've traveled a ton, so like talk about some of your experiences quickly on how you've traveled the world.
Wow. Well, I guess my first, I love backpacking. I love traveling. For me, my first trip when I was 19 was Costa Rica for a month. So that was really a life-changing experience. And being at Booking, Amsterdam was like a second home for me every year. I'm sure a lot of people Booking would laugh hearing this now because I was always on my bike at, I think, 24 hours a day roaming around that city whenever I can.
Me too.
God, I love that place. Since we're a remote team, we meet up every 6 months too. So we have a team meetup. Our last one was right before COVID hit in Thailand. So we met in Bangkok. We had a whole team meetup there. I got to discover Thailand, Koh Samui. Lately it's been Europe. Next, now I've got the bug for Asia and Africa.
Nice. I know once the travel starts kicking back on, right? We're waiting for that moment for sure. And then
Caribbean, actually.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, that's a big future also for digital nomads and longer term stays, as we're really focusing on developing the Caribbean for the winter. We think that'll be a huge opportunity for people.
Ooh, and it's so much closer too. I think you guys are right because Bali's so far. Like, what have you guys seen happening in Bali thus far during COVID?
It's closed.
Oh,
yeah.
Then everybody fled off the island.
I'm not sure about that. Maybe some of them stayed. That's kind of the market that's left everywhere. Is everybody's talking about these hidden millions hiding in the U.S. and or in other countries, or that in Europe, these digital nomads that just stayed and that are still looking for place. That's kind of where everybody's talking right now with global mobility.
Oh my gosh, I think you're right. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. Or they fled to the countries that they figured would pan out the best during COVID. New Zealand, which our CTO, like he travels so many, I think he's been over almost 100 countries almost over. And he said he fled there because he did the research and their numbers were incredible. Some of the best, they had very few cases. And it turns out that's now his favorite country in the world. Like out of all the countries I've never been yet. So
it's on my bucket list. Yeah.
For sure. So that was kind of cool. So let me see. Oh, just some quick stats. Again, I know I was putting Steve on the spot earlier. Would love to hear like the numbers you guys are at right now in the marketplace.
Sure. So we've got over 1,000 listing locations. So we work differently. We really work by property location. So as far as units, we're well over 10,000 rooms. That's all over the world. We've actually grown into over 110 cities across the world where we're available now. I think that's kind of the biggest jump we've seen. Co-living, our biggest co-living offers really based in the US by far. We're definitely seeing a lot more different kind of furnished apartments popping up in Europe. There's a lot more of that. Lisbon is definitely a destination that's growing. What else are we seeing in Europe? It would be Lisbon, Spain, all over Spain, Barcelona. Again, because of global mobility, like I was saying, I go back to the lights going on and off. This is the only situation. So depending on where people can go to with COVID, but when the lights are on, that's definitely what happens. We're seeing a lot of movement there for furnished apartments in Europe. But the co-living business is very much stronger, I would say, in the United States.
Got it. And then what about vacation homes? Again, in general, not just through Airbnb, vacation homes in general. Do you guys see, and we were talking about this earlier too, the people are like, like, let's just turn it into co-living because at least then we can maybe get a 6-month lease term or 12-month and not these nightly stays. And like everything's so shaky right now in the vacation market, obviously. Have you seen people converting their vacation homes to longer term stays?
Yes. So some people have actually said they want to do co-living. We've had people in Orlando come to us. So we have a lot of operators that are like, I want to do this co-living thing. And then but they realize there's so much more to it. So there's only, we know we have a certain role we can play in education. We love to redirect them to the operating partners. That's the beautiful thing about being a marketplace is that, we can be friends with everybody, so we're always looking for the right fit or the right, so that's why, when I come to your co-living meetups, or when I go to the other co-living meetups in Europe, it's a great way for me to connect with our existing partners and go, hey, there's some people who need help that want to transfer to co-living. And a lot of property management companies have gone into the midterm market because of regulation, because they've realized that, they've had to change their whole model because of, again, there's just no market for international short-term travel right now. And they're focusing on the domestic market, quarantine market. We've seen some go back, some of, surprisingly, some outside of the major centers have started to go back to the short term. They've done well again. In the bigger centers, they're generally trying to go and focus more on the long term with more flexibility, ironically.
And when you do get approached, I love your expert opinion. When you have somebody, potential, a partner or client coming up to you and saying, hey, we want to get more into the co-living market. Maybe we were just furnished apartments, short-term stay, vacation home, whatever it was. How do you educate them quickly on like, okay, this is what co-living is and this is what you need to do?
Yeah, we let them know, like, is this really something that they can do? We let them know, look, we have to create the right expectation for the guests. So, co-living is in itself already a very general, a broad category of living. So we also want to make sure that we're respecting our existing partners who've worked, because all of you are pioneers in this industry. So we have to take that into consideration. We know that the philosophy, and we want to make sure that they understand what they're getting into. So we'll generally work with them and look, this is what we can do. This is what I would suggest do. We try to test out different things. But generally, we have to do what they want to do, but we can guide them in the right direction.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I know the essence of co-living for sure. So it's great to and I'm the same way. Like I definitely want people to understand the differences and execute well. And I think that's the future, is that more and more people are going to realize, especially now because community. People now realize how important community is during these COVID times. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're hearing. Everybody wants, a sense of community as long as they have their own bathroom. So that's something I think that co-living will have to juggle, and I'm definitely happy to continue aggregating that kind of information, see what consumers and clients are telling us. But they want the community, they want to feel part of something, and they do want a sense of privacy as well too.
Oh yeah, every consulting job I'm on, I always tell them you guys have to try to do en-suite bathrooms in every bedroom. Like it is the number one most important thing. It seems like, especially for this certain demographic that's co-living, they want their own bathroom, they don't want to share it, they're willing to pay extra. So I always tell people they'll pay extra, try to do the individual bathrooms, right? And that's what you guys are seeing too.
Yeah. People will take, people really, they'll take, depending on the market, there are different realities. Again, people know what the price points are. So it'll definitely change. But for sure, we're seeing that when you've got a private bathroom at a competitive rate, for sure, it's going to be very, very desired.
And then any other super interesting, before we wrap up, any stats, interesting numbers, findings, behavior changes, especially. So you guys saw a massive spike in listings in like the last 4 months, you said, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot more interest. With that also comes one of the biggest challenges is because the market and travel is so impacted by COVID, is that people are losing inventory. A lot of property companies, so people are changing their inventory. Property owners are taking back from the property management company their apartments. So this is kind of one of the challenges that we're facing right now with growth. It also there's a lot of yo-yoing in inventory right now. The biggest, most interesting stat is that 25% of our visitors, and by the way, organic traffic has been through the roof since COVID. The interest in the idea of flexible living and digital nomadism has clearly been really, really big since COVID. So most of our traffic now comes through organically, which is amazing. And 25% of those visitors are over 45 years old. And I think we really want to make sure we address that for them, because we know that it's been a challenge to make it really accessible to them. But I really believe there's a market in intergenerational co-living.
Ooh, that's a super interesting stat. I like that. And then since you're double-sided marketplace, you've got inquiries coming in from people that want to find a place to live. And then you've got the inquiries of operators or people that have this housing that they need filled. What's like the split? I don't know if you know the rough estimate of inquiries coming in for living versus, hey, I've got vacancies.
You mean for clients versus inquiries just to list with us?
Yeah, exactly. So like people that are looking for a place to live on your platform versus people that want to list their vacancies on your platform.
Oh, for sure. I would say 95% of people inquiries are client and housing related, and then about 5% are inbound inquiries of people who want to partner with us. We definitely
Awesome.
we definitely have a vetting process, make sure it's the right fit, and like Steve was saying, we're a B2C marketplace, so we're not a peer-to-peer marketplace. So we definitely have a lot more clients inquiring.
Awesome. Well, great. So any other last thoughts, comments? Of course, we're super appreciative of having you guys as one of our partners for the Co-Living Code Show. So thank you to that. It's been amazing. We always have great conversations whenever you and I talk. So I'm glad we got it on camera this time.
Me too. Pleasure. No, it's really been great. I thank you for letting us know about this opportunity, and we're really, really excited for the future.
Yeah, same here. Well, thanks, Nathaniel. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. And if you're looking for more information on co-living, you can check out our published book, The Co-Living Code, on Amazon. And be sure to go to Kindred to check out our online search and discovery platform for co-living around the world. Lastly, a quick thank you again to both of our sponsors. Anyplace makes it easy to book a flexible, furnished accommodation anywhere in the world, whether it's an apartment, co-living space, or extended stay hotel. And also ISL Furnishings. Trust your unit interiors to ISL. They bring light to your vision.